Mick is from San Antonio with USAA. Who knows what USAA does? Does everybody, most people here, I mean, I guess most people who have some affiliation with the armed forces know. I think I'm not going to be able to steal any of Mick's thunder because if you've met him, I mean, he's a really dynamic speaker. Mick, why don't you come on up and join us for the last presentation of the day?
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. As Louis said, I lead the innovation and research functions at USAA, and I saw about half of the hands didn't go up when he said, "Who knows USAA?" So I hope that when you see this, that you say to yourself, wow, USAA is a company that cares about their members and that's innovative, because that's kind of why I'm here. That's why they released me. They let me out of the cage to come. Truly. If you think about this morning's talk, Luis showed kind of the developmental progress of innovation and said, where's the United States? If you looked at USAA on that diagram, you would classify us as mature. We have an enterprise function. I lead it. We have dedicated innovators. I've got about 25 dedicated innovators in each of the lines of business. We have an applied research function that's dedicated. I've got a tool that integrates ideation across the front end, across the enterprise. We have processes that we use. I have a budget that I control that I can use to incubate ideas. All that to say we're mature, but it's not an easy journey, and it's not a complete journey. And so I'm going to share with you some of my lessons about culture because clearly there are a lot of lessons, and we can commiserate later over a beer if you want. But sometimes I'm referred to as the human lightning rod at my work. And so just talk to you a little bit about culture. I have no volume. You will innovate, damn it.
Fired up. Are you fired up?
There we go. Why are you fired up? I don't know. Silent movies are in this year, people. I don't know what's going on here. I've completely lost control of this briefing. Is everybody ready for cocktails? Culture eats innovation for lunch. Thank you. I don't know what's going on here. I'm a military officer, and so I told them we will do this with precision. Yeah, we're host. Okay, key point is that culture is critical to enabling innovation. And it was a lesson that I learned early on in our journey at USAA, and so I'll talk to you a little bit about that. We started off at USAA thinking that it was about the ideas and about planting the seeds of the ideas, and it was all about the ideas. And so I heard Kim earlier talking about the seed, and I started that way, but I changed a little. I might disagree with you a little bit on that, because I was all about the ideas. And that first year, we launched 3, and it wasn't enough. And so through that process, we started looking at what's going on here, and we found out there were a number of things in the culture that we had to influence. And so we changed and we adjusted our objectives to focus on that culture. And so I'm just going to talk about that briefly. First, for those of you that don't know what USAA is, we were started by an innovation, and you can see there some verbiage. In 1922, a group of Army officers couldn't get car insurance. Why? Because they were considered to be too much of a risk. Go figure. They're not a risk. They're great customers. But because nobody would insure them, they got together in San Antonio, where I'm at. They all threw their money in a hat, and they said, we'll insure each other. And so they formed USAA, which is a member-owned organization. So from those 22 people, great innovation, business model innovation. Now we're a 9 million person company, $17 billion this past year in revenue. So we've grown into this great company from an innovation. So just a couple, this is the last slide on USAA. Just a couple of things that we do well. We excel in customer service. we bend over backwards to serve our member. We call them our members. They own us anyways. We don't serve our members to make money. We make money to serve our members. And so for our version of innovation, I'm going to show you that one of the key things for us in tapping into the culture is making it all about the member, all about the output we deliver to that member. It doesn't matter if we make a penny. In fact, I'm allowed to lose money on innovations if it makes the member dollars. It doesn't matter, and it's that important to us. And so that's a little bit about us. This is just a stat before I talk about some of the things that we did for culture to influence it that shows that a number of R&D executives feel that culture is their number one thing to influence. Just by a show of hands here, who feels that culture is critical to their efforts? Okay. Wow. All right, that's why, I think y'all are here because you're smart like that. I was not so smart like that when we started. I was all about the ideas. And, so I looked at the idea as a seed, and I thought everybody would be like me. I'm an idea guy. And if you bring an idea to somebody, they're going to go, wow, what a great idea. We got to do that, Mick. I say, yeah, let's do it. Come on. And we'd launch it. Well, what I found out is that everybody in the organization wasn't like that, that there are all different types of thoughts and different types of thinking, and that when you bring an idea to those folks, they don't necessarily embrace it. And so I was looking at the seed as being everything. The seed would grow into a tree. The tree would produce fruit. And we'd have great innovations. But I forgot what seeds grow in. Seeds have to have soil. They have to have the right soil. They have to have water. They have to have air. They have to have sunlight. And so all of those things are the culture of the organization that help that seed grow. And without that culture, embracing that seed and nurturing it and helping it to come up, it just doesn't happen. And so early on, we adjusted my objectives so that it wasn't just about getting the innovation ideas. My big objective is to influence the culture, to be this mature ecosystem that fosters innovation. So how did we do that? We're a big company, so I had to have a structured approach to it. And I know this wouldn't work for everybody, but for us, I used this modified Galbraith-Star model. And you see the 5 key points: strategy, people, communication, rewards, and process. And I've been listening to the speakers today, and they've all talked about these things in some aspect or another. For me, these are my 5 key things that I get after. And through changing these things, I think I can bring value to that center of the star of the member. And so when we changed the focus to be on affecting cultural changes, this is the model I used. Now, I should tell you that when I used this, when I got this and then modified it, the contractors that were on board with me, paid contractors, keep in mind, actually quit in frustration. Who the heck does that when you're a paid contractor? They said, Mick, you guys are never going to change. We had it. We're gone. They also told me it would be a 10-year journey. And I was like, we don't have 10 years. I might have 10 days here. We've got to do this quickly. And so this is a journey that we're on, and we're not there yet. And I don't want you thinking we're completely there yet. But we are definitely moving out and innovating on behalf of our members. So I'm going to talk each one of these. Strategy is the first thing, and I'll just talk them around the points of the star. Strategic linkage is critical. Your innovation, at least in my company, my innovation needs to be tied to the strategy. We need to be working on innovations that help senior leaders and the organization move forward on the azimuth we've picked. In the early days, I didn't necessarily do that. I had great ideas. They might be emerging in the market, but they weren't necessarily tied to that strategy directly. And so I have quarterly reviews with the senior leaders, the line of business presidents and other folks. And the way those quarterly reviews used to go is I would go, what do we got in the pipeline? Quick, I'm meeting with, president of the bank. I'd pull those things and I'd go and I'd talk to him about them for an hour. But first, I'd have to get buy-in that those were the right things. And we'd spend most of the time talking about what his needs are, and I could tell there were other needs he had. Once I realized that we need to be focused on the strategy, I've got that buy-in instantly. Now when I see him on those quarterly meetings, I don't even have to state what we're working on. He knows that we're working on his strategic gaps, and he's now pulling from me. So before, where I had a push model, I'd pull up these ideas. They might have been great innovations, but I didn't necessarily have buy-in, and try to sell him on them. Now he's sold, and he's actually pulling. And so for me, strategic linkage is key. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on that? That's a great question. Yeah, and I think it probably vary depending on what company you're in. We are a pretty good strategy organization, and we've kind of adopted the military strategy structure. And so we're very strategic. In fact, you can't see me now, but I'm staying at attention while I talk to you. But for us, I got tied into the strategic planning conference. Our CEO, who's really our chief innovation officer, put me on the same team with the strategy officer, reporting to an SVP that reports to him. And so we work together. And when he's doing the strategic planning, I'm right there with him. And in fact, I listen in the back of the strategic planning conference, and I have 30 minutes at the end of it where they trot me out, and I tell them what I think they've said the gaps are. And then they go yay or nay. And then if they say yay, then I'm taking those and I start working those. So that's how it works in my company. You earned your beer. Congratulations. That's my lead into people. And people are critical. And I think they're the cornerstone of our program, too, as a few of y'all have discussed. People, for our version of innovation, all need to be involved. So we need senior level participation, mid-level participation, first line employee participation, everyone involved. And there's tremendous synergy that comes about from that. When you have everyone involved, then they share something in common and they can work together to develop those innovations. If you don't have everyone involved, at least from my business's perspective, it's difficult. So for us, we have every single person in the company involved. And last year we had 90% of our employee base without giving them any time at all. We're not a Google. We don't give any time. But on their own, 90% of them participated in our innovation program in some way or another. They just care about the member. They just come out to support it, and they're helping. So people are critical. I'll tell you a practical way that comes into play. As the lead innovator, I can't be everywhere at once, and even if I was, maybe sometimes I'm not the best spokesperson for innovation. But with everybody involved in innovation, I don't need to be, because the CEO is hearing about innovative points when he's meeting with a group of phone reps at lunch. The P&C company president's hearing about innovation when he talks with his subordinate leaders. They're bringing him ideas. Why? Because we're all innovating now, and that synergistic effect is very powerful. So for me, I think people are critical. Any thoughts or comments on that? Communication is the third point on our star that I get after, and we have a super robust communication plan. In fact, I have the most robust communication plan in the company. We're on our internal website. We're through manager talking points. I have my own, crowdsourcing site that's heavily visited that I communicate like crazy on and do videos on. We do town halls. We do skits. We are all over the place. Why? Because you have to be talking about innovation. It's not the only thing you do. Somebody made a point that innovation's a buzzword, and yeah, it is. But a critical component of a good program is communicating the heck out of it. Communicate your successes. Communicate your failures. If somebody tries hard, sticks their neck out. But communication's key. Rewards. We talked about rewards. Rewards range from the simple pat on the back to the, at my company, we have an annual awards gala. By the way, what do you think the most effective, we do surveys and I have lunches and get feedback on what people like for rewards. What do you think the most effective reward is, the thing that people like most in my company? That's a good one. I would like that, but no, that's not it. Recognition is it. It just surprised me. I have a rewards program where we give money and prizes and things for innovative ideas that get into our processes. But what surprises me is what they like most is recognition. Specifically, they like their supervisor to know what they did. and to be recognized in front of them. And, you know, that's a powerful thing that doesn't take a robust program to do or any money. You just pat them on the back. How that works in practice, I copy good companies. And so I looked at something that 3M does. 3M is very good with their employees about creating a hero-like culture for their innovators. And they let me visit them a couple of times, and I saw that they have an annual ceremony. And at that annual ceremony, they make it a big deal. They have the CEO and all the execs there. They bring in all of the innovators, seat them on the front row. They give big trophies and, you know, have parties and that kind of thing. And so I did the same thing. And, you know, I copied them and tried to do it bigger than them. I made it like the Academy Awards. Have red carpet going in with pictures being taken. I put the innovators on the front row. Same thing. Have 500 people go in to our auditorium, standing room only. You wouldn't believe the press we get out of that. It's not just a recognition event. It's a culture-changing event, because what it's saying to them is innovation's important at USAA. USAA innovates on behalf of the members, and then they say, I want to do that too. And so for the week prior to that gala, there's a huge buzz in the organization, and for a week after, there's a huge buzz with everybody talking about who won. And so in practice, it's very valuable to have a rewards program. Any thoughts or comments on that?
How did you get that the first time you did it? Mission, or how did you make that happen?
The first time I did it? It was a cluster. It was a little less of a cluster the second time, and I just did it my third time, and it was almost better. I still worked over the weekend with people. I just did it. I just said, I'm going to have one, and I invited the senior leadership, and we have good senior leader support. And when those guys said they were coming, when the CEO says he's coming, guess who else comes? Everybody else. And so I just took a risk. I'm serious. I'm not called the human lightning rod for nothing, Rick. I just did it.
How did you manage the cost? You know, a lot of other people outside of your, so how did you manage that? How did you manage
I invited the innovators in the organization, regardless of rank, rankless. I did invite the CEO and the C-suite execs, and I put them up front with the innovators. But I invited the folks who have had ideas that either launched or got a long way, or the folks who were doing something very innovative to help their organization, and those are the people that were in the auditorium. Was that your question?
the cost like that?
Oh, how did I pay for it?
Across the U.S., I mean,
Gotcha. We're not a super big company. We're about 23,000 folks. 14 of them are in San Antonio, 14,000. And so I flew in. If they were winning the awards, I flew them in. Otherwise, we did a simulcast to them, video. The cost wasn't that great. Overall, it cost about $20K to put it on. Any other questions, thoughts? Got quite a few people earning their drinks, please. You're in trouble.
Thanks. A quick one about people you're recognizing. You're making specific reference to innovators and ideators. Are you also recognizing other types of contributors who really bring and build on those initial ideas?
Absolutely. Great point. Yes. When I say innovators, I'm using the term very broadly to include people that help to bring the ideas to fruition, not just the people who come up with the idea, the eureka folks, but the people, the team that takes that idea and builds it out. Absolutely. And it's a great point, because we all have different roles in innovation, and if you're going to have people, 100% of your folks wanting to do innovation, you better recognize them for their specific roles, because not everybody is a idea person, obviously.
What about the folks that have IP, they've put in patents? Do you recognize that at this event?
It's a great question. Yeah, you're with me. This is combined with our intellectual property awards, and so at our gala we recognize those folks too. And so, in fact, the co-hosts, one was our general counsel lead, and the other one was my C-suite exec lead, and they co-hosted. It's a great point, because intellectual property needs to be hand in hand with your innovation program. The things that you're developing for innovation, you want to see if you can protect them and license them, and the things that they're protecting licensing should be applicable to your business. Great point. Anything else? Oh, are you afraid to fail? I would hope that I'm not. I mean,
The question was, are you afraid to fail?
I would hope that we're not. We have a biggest failure award, where we give a quarterly award to the biggest innovation failure. This is the folks who stuck their neck out, tried, did everything right, and for whatever reason, and there are lots of them, for whatever reason that innovation didn't succeed. The caveat to that is we want to fail fast and fail early. We're not wanting to reward failures that take millions of dollars and go forever.
Military culture supports that willingness to fail. What's the connection, if there is one?
I don't know. I've never thought about it that way. Julian, I've never thought about it that way. I'll tell you that I was an innovator in the Army. I'm a retired Army officer. There's a anybody in here military? Okay, my take on the military is there's a split between how they manage innovations, and this is from being a veteran of innovating in the military, but it's just my viewpoint. The uniformed services are very innovative. They are going out and they're fighting on Hilltop X, and they're learning things on Hilltop X. They're assembling on that hilltop before they go to Y, and they're changing their process and procedures and even modifying equipment with what they have to go to Y. So the military, in my opinion, is a super innovative group. The civilian business side of the military, however, in my opinion, is the other side. Very rigid, very strict. I was on that side. I was a military comptroller, money manager. Very hard to make changes. I have an employee over, that I could go to see now that her name's Nancy. She's probably been doing the same thing for 20 years. Sure, she took her form that used to be in carbon copies, and now it's on her screen, and now she's typing it in, but it's the same dang process she's been doing for 20 years. And so I guess I would say the uniformed military there is probably very, they are very supportive of the innovations, and maybe those of us that were on the business side aren't so much. Long answer, and my opinion only. Any other thoughts? And it's a joke, but it gets us into the last point, which is process. And process is a bad word, but I think it's necessary in a large organization. And so for me, it's one of my 5 key things that I address with regards to culture. And I have 5 processes: one for prototypes, one for disruptive ideas. I have this gated process that you see here, etc. And so I think it's important to have a process, to let the rest of your process owners know you have one, and then to integrate it, because it gives you credibility in big organizations. If you don't have a process, the risk is they look at you like a crazy person in a white lab coat that's just bringing, with Einstein here, that's just bringing in my half-baked ideas. And so if you could have a process or a couple of processes, get it in your company's process library, and prove that it works, I think it's valuable. And I know process can be a bad word amongst us innovators. Any thoughts on that? Yes.
Earlier, you talked about the importance of the linkage to strategy. So when you talk about innovation and ideas, is there a distinction between those and just good old-fashioned initiatives that come out of your strategy? In other words, is that the full universe of all the ultimate initiatives that you drive, or just a special, unique set?
That's a great question. So for us, we came up with a very broad definition of innovation that allows us to take those initiatives and also call them innovative. And so our definition is an evolutionary or revolutionary change that adds value to our member or the association. Drive a truck through that. That's been good for us because it's been good to help us cultivate a spirit of innovation at USAA, because we're not excluding many people from that. Everybody can innovate with that definition. The downside to that is it's so broad that there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's hard to differentiate. But for us, that's the way we've worked. That's our definition. Any other thoughts, comments? And here's our 2011 results. We had 212 ideas implemented. We had an 8x return on investment, and I mentioned we had great participation across the enterprise. That 212 ideas is significant for us. If you think that in 2008 we started with 3 ideas implemented, and I believe that this is happening because of the culture. It's because of the environment. It's because of the soil and the water and the air and the sun. It's paying attention to those things, and the ideas grow. I'll tell you that what I'm most excited about is 212 ideas, but 40 of them, 40 of our innovations last year came about without any touch from me or anybody with a researcher or innovation title. They were leaders or individuals or teams that said, I can make a difference, I can do a new service, I can do a new product, I can do a new business model. They formed up their own teams, they got stakeholder buy-in, they found the appropriate funding, and they implemented it. And for us, that's the wave of our future, and that's probably how I'm working myself out of a job here shortly.